After years of indecision, a program has been introduced for the replacement of the aging diesel multiple unit fleet. After the apparently over-specified Class 210, two prototype classic DMU designs have been ordered, Classes 150 and 151, from BREL and Metropolitan Camel respectively. The first two units of Class 150 have been delivered to the Railway Technical Centre at Derby for evaluation, prior to service tests on the Derby to Buxton line. On October the 17th, these units were run to St Pancras for review by VIPs. An order for a further 50 Class 150s has been placed for the provincial services sector. For lighter duties, Class 141 rail buses have been introduced in the West Yorkshire PTE area. Although when introduced in BR livery, the units bore set numbers, these have been dispensed with when painted in the PTE colours. This unit arrived from Harrogate, via Knaresborough, and returned immediately to Harrogate. Class 141s operate services radiating from Leeds, and we see here a unit departing from Leeds for Doncaster at night. An order for 75 Class 142 units, based on the Class 141s, but with wider bodies, has been placed with delivery due before the end of 1985. It is expected that the first batch of these will be used in the West Country. (1984) has been a bad year for accidents on BR. After the disaster at Polmont in Scotland, with an Edinburgh to Glasgow push-pull service, in which 13 people lost their lives, on 11th of October, a Euston to Bletchley commuter EMU collided with a freightliner just south of Wembley Central, with the loss of 3 lives. The units involved were 310-067 leading and 310-086. Only the rear car of 310-086 remained upright. The leading car of 310-067 lost running gear and was badly damaged. During the closure of the West Coast Main Line following the accident, trains for Birmingham and North Wales were diverted to Paddington, and those for the North and North West to St Pancras. Here we see a train from Liverpool Line Street arriving at St Pancras, leading to the unusual sight of locomotive-hauled Mark III stock at that station. (1984) has seen a variation of the corporate identity image, with locomotives and HSTs in the intercity sector being repainted in APT-style executive livery. This unit, 253028, was the first to receive the livery in September 1983. The only application of the livery on the southern region so far has been to the Gatwick Express stock. For the winter timetables, these trains are being run with reduced formations of 5 passenger-carrying vehicles instead of the 8 used when the service was introduced. The winter timetable changes have also seen the extension of the first Inverness HST service, the Highland Chieftain, to a year-round service instead of a summer service only. The leading power car here is 43085 City of Bradford. A further innovation in Scotland is radio signalling, which is being installed on the lightly used North and West Highland lines. Class 37 number 37260 has been reliveried and named Radio Highland in connection with this. Through the courtesy of the Public Affairs Department at Waterloo, to whom we extend our thanks, we were given the opportunity of a cab ride in one of the Southern Region Class 201 Hastings DEMUs, from Hastings to Tunbridge, over the line which is currently being electrified. We travelled in the first unit of the series, number 1001, which was built at Eastleigh Works and delivered in January 1957. The electrification will lead to the end of the line of these venerable units, which introduced the concept of self-contained power cars long before HSTs were heard of. Departing from Hastings, the train shared the already electrified lines with Brighton to Hastings services, which are known as the East Coastway services. The line now being electrified commences at Bo Peep Junction at West St Leonards. At this point, rain, which had been threatening, started to fall, partially obscuring our view. The Hastings units do not have windscreen wipers for the second man's window. Crowhurst Station was once the junction for a branch to Bexhill, and boasted 4 running lines. It is now but a shadow of its former self. Battle Station is considered to be of particular architectural merit, and is to be refurbished during the electrification programme. Between Battle and Stonegate, the line passes over 6 level crossings, the ones seen here being Battle Road and River Hill crossings. Progress on the electrification can be seen by the installation of the third rail. The up line at this point has got a third rail, but the down line merely has the installation pots, awaiting the installation of the rail. With the rain beginning to ease, we approach Mountfield. The sidings here serve the British Gypsum Works and provide the only regular freight workings on the line, powered by the Slimline Cromptons Class 33/2. Just before Mountfield Tunnel, we picked up a pilot man for single line working, which was enforced between Mountfield and Robertsbridge, due to the electrification works. Mountfield Tunnel is the first of 4 tunnels, the others being Wadhurst, Strawberry Hill and Summerhill, which have dictated the slab-sided profile of the 33/2s and Hastings units, and their steam-age predecessors. These tunnels were built by the contractor to the line with 2 fewer courses of brick linings than required by the specification. This was discovered after the collapse of Wadhurst Tunnel, and when it had been remedied, the tunnels became too narrow for conventional stock. The solution, paving the way to the current electrification programme, was to single the line through the tunnels, Mountfield being the prototype, singled in 1975. The remaining 3 are to be dealt with early next year, after the signalling on the line has been upgraded to modern standards. Single line working ran as far as Robertsbridge, which was the former junction for the Kent and East Sussex Railway. Here we dropped our pilot and regained the up road. The first short piece of third rail was ceremonially laid at Robertsbridge on the 19th of July, and it can be seen to the right of the crossover in front of the green flag. A ceremonial golden pot was laid, but it was removed the following day. As part of the electrification works, the semaphore signalling on the line is to be removed, and modern colour light signalling is to be introduced. With the fate of the Tunbridge Wells to Erridge link awaiting a decision from the TUCC, it is still not known whether Grove Junction will be eliminated. Although Tunbridge Wells goodshed still stands, the 2 remaining sidings are being subjected to rationalisation. crossover and turnout leading to the upsiding are being removed. Summerhill Tunnel is the final one of those that still have to be singled as part of the electrification project. As we approach Tonbridge, over a severe curve, the Hastings line joins the main southeastern line, which has been electrified since 1959. Our journey continued from Tonbridge over the electrified lines to Charing Cross. A full unedited tape of the whole journey from Hastings to Charing Cross is available from Railscene Limited. Further details of this are given on the inside of the cassette box wrapper.
Films for the very best in transport videotapes. Send for free details.
We have pleasure in presenting a film from the British Transport Films archive.
Mainline diesel-electric locomotives, though familiar to rail travellers in America, are unknown in this country. Or should I say, were unknown. For in 1947, two companies, the LMS Railway and the English Electric Company, pooled their resources to produce diesel-electric locomotive number 10,000, the first express diesel to be operated in Britain. This first diesel locomotive is powered by a 1600 horsepower engine, which together with the whole of the control equipment was designed by the English Electric Company at its various works. Under test at Rugby, English Electric test engineers lived with the giant 16-cylinder 1600 horsepower engine day and night for over a week. Delicate instruments and meters were used to check over every part of her, and the readings taken at frequent intervals provided a perfect case history of the job. The diesel engine and main and auxiliary generators form one unit. It was specially designed and developed for rail traction, and the governing and control gear arranged for complete remote control. Incidentally, this 17-ton engine is the largest V-type to be built in Britain. From Rugby, the engine was taken to the LMS works at Derby. Here, a new workshop is the first to be established in Britain exclusively for the construction and repair of diesel and diesel-electric locomotives. The decision to construct number 10,000 followed the successful experience gained by the LMS over several years of the application of the diesel-electric principle to shunting locomotives. By the use of these shunting units, of which 44 are in service and more on order, increased availability and saving in operating costs have been obtained. Now the application of the principle is being extended to mainline passenger and freight services. First main stage in the construction was dropping the engine into the frames. Everything connected with the assembly of this unit was new, so that at every stage new problems had to be faced and overcome. Slowly, carefully, the engine is lowered into position. The brains of the locomotive are mounted in a dust-tight frame. This control equipment consists of electromagnetic and electro-pneumatic contactors, relays and reverser, and is operated by master controllers located at each end of the locomotive. While primarily designed to test the application of diesel-electric traction to mainline working, it is hoped that the data which will come from the trials will assist still further the export drive. It will, for instance, now be possible to see a typical British product not only on the drawing board, but in actual operation in mainline services in Great Britain. Bulkheads are fitted at each end of the locomotive behind the driving compartments. With the fitting of the side plates, number 10,000 is beginning to look like the finished job. The body, sides and roof, together with the nose ends, form one assembly, which is supported on two pivots placed at each bulkhead behind the driving compartments. The frame is thus free to deflect without stressing any of the superstructure. The last section of the roof, that over the fuel tanks, is being fitted into position. There are hinged doors in the roof so that the diesel engine covers, pistons and other parts can be easily removed for examination. The inside of the body, including the driver's compartments and the roof, are sprayed with asbestos to reduce noise and to provide good insulation. From the main generator is transmitted to 6 traction motors, 3 of which are located on each of the 2 bogies. Adjustable cushioned seats make driving number 10,000 almost an armchair job. A cab is provided at each end. Fittings include the main controller, brake valve, windscreen wipers, sanding and hooter valves. There are defrosters and sunblinds. Dashboards with indirect lighting to the instruments give the crew information on the working of the engine and equipment. Almost the last job before number 10,000 can take the road is to provide her with wheels. The 2 bogies, each with their 3 traction motors, are pushed under the frames and superstructure. These bogies of entirely novel design are fitted with roller bearing axle boxes. Painted black and chromium, locomotive number 10,000 is an impressive sight as she moves slowly out of the shop. The men who for weeks have worked at her building are there to give her a send-off. Privilege of driving her under her own power for the very first time went to Mr. H.G. Ivett, Chief Mechanical Engineer of the LMS, who was responsible for the production of the locomotive. While engine number 10,000 was being completed at Derby, another locomotive of conventional design was being built at Crewe. Number 6256, Sir William Stanier, and a sister engine of the same design will work in friendly rivalry with the diesel and will provide comparable data on the 2 forms of traction on the heaviest mainline duties. For the longer and heavier runs, 2 diesel units will be coupled together and operated as one. In this form, they will compete with the steam locomotives. These steam engines are the first in the country to be equipped throughout with roller bearings to all axles. After short preliminary trials, diesel-electric locomotive number 10,000 was run from Derby to London. Railwaymen, who all their lives have been used to the familiar tattoo of the exhaust of steam engines, stopped a while from their work as the black and silver, softly purring diesel went by. Is this, they thought, the shape of things to come? Romance still clings to the steam engine, but romance alone will not run the railways. New ideas, new methods must be given a chance to succeed. At Euston, on the 17th of December 1947, the 2 new locomotives, steam and diesel-electric, made their first public appearance. And there too, to wish them success, were Sir Robert Burrows, chairman of the LMS Railway, and Sir George Nelson, chairman and managing director of the English Electric Company. Sir Robert Burrows said that the building of number 10,000 represented one of the fine examples of cooperative effort between the users of power and the people with all the expert knowledge that was at the command of the English Electric Company. Sir Robert was sure that extremely valuable data would be got from the performance of the engine and of its teammate in tests against the steam locomotive Sir William Stanier. Sir George Nelson paid a tribute to the LMS for their foresight and enterprise in building mainline diesel-electric locomotives. In the States, said Sir George, overseas buyers can see hundreds of these engines. Now, we shall be able to bring overseas buyers to see this engine operating on our railways, after which we hope the engine will sell itself. The English Electric Company has been privileged to be associated with the LMS over a great number of years. That association had proved valuable to its customers, the travellers, and to the world, because it had enabled British equipment to be sold abroad. After the ceremony, the diesel engine was thrown open for inspection. And so, with the entry into the railway service of locomotive number 10,000, a new page has been turned in the history of rail development in Britain. While the steam engine must remain for some considerable time the principal means of locomotion, it now has, in number 10,000, a new challenger.
Full details of the prizes in our competition and an entry form are included on the inside of the cassette box wrapper. The North Yorkshire Moors Railway runs through the spectacular scenery of the North Yorkshire Moors National Park. The line, which was originally double-tracked throughout, was engineered by George Stephenson in the 1830s and was part of the line from Whitby to the Vale of Pickering. It was opened throughout in May 1836. The line makes an end-on junction with the BR Esk Valley line at Grossmont, the BR line curving in from the left, as this was the later line built. The North Yorkshire Moors Railway therefore has a straight run through its platforms. Joe M, Class J72, used as a station pilot and as a shunter, was acquired in January 1983 after service on the Derwent Valley Railway in York. The North Yorkshire Moors Railway makes use of both preserved steam and diesel locomotives, whilst the BR line is served by DMUs. The North Eastern Railway Class P3 was recently reassembled after a 7-year period out of traffic. On the 27th of August it was steamed for a boiler hydraulic test. It is not yet returned to traffic use. Whilst the diesels are stored outside, a number of other locomotives awaiting restoration are stored in 2 engine sheds. The steep gradient between Grossmont and the first station, Goatland, is no problem for a Deltic diesel, but steam engines have to work very hard, which gives rise to superb effects. The Class K1 was repainted in 1984 in BR black livery as number 62005. It ran as 62052. It has now gone for overhaul and will return as LNER number 2085. It is seen here on the bank up to Goatland. The K1 and Black 5 number 45428 Eric Tracy formed the backbone of the steam motive power during 1984. J72 had worked up the bank from Grossmont to do some shunting in Goatland Yard. However, due to the greasy rails, it was proving very difficult to obtain a grip. When the shunting was completed, Joam took water at the Goatland water crane prior to returning to Grossmont. Heavy rain can be seen clearly in this picture. The summit of the line is beyond Goatland in Fylingdale, and the Black 5 is seen just after having passed the summit. Beyond Fylingdale is Newtondale. The woods here are inaccessible by road, so in 1981 the railway built a halt, Newtondale Halt, which can be accessed only on foot. The final crossing station on the line is Levisham, set in a valley amidst woodland scenery. The village which this station serves is high up to the east and is reached by a steep road. A typical northeastern signal box guards the level crossing at Levisham, and a similar structure guards a further crossing at New Bridge just before Pickering. The final station on the line is Pickering, which was once a junction with 3 lines going south. The station has a modern appearance and is set in the heart of this fine old Yorkshire town. 1984 has again seen steam workings over BR lines, albeit restricted in number due to the coal dispute. The Merchant Navy Locomotive Preservation Society's Clan Line returned to mainline work after a costly overhaul. After making national news on its test runs to Swindon, it was used on 2 tours along the Welsh border at the end of September and in October. Perhaps the most unusual mainline steam workings were operated by Wilson's Brewery of Manchester, the LNWR coal tank being used on Wednesdays between Manchester Victoria and Wilson's Works in Newton Heath. On September 29th, Wilson's hired 4472 Flying Scotsman for a tour from Manchester to Chester, where guests celebrated the brewery's 150th anniversary. The threatened Settle and Carlisle line received a shot in the arm with the introduction of an additional train during the summer months as a result of its popularity. The train was formed of DMUs during weekdays. Other service trains were entrusted to Class 40s, themselves threatened. Steam-hauled specials were again promoted by SLOA. Among the steam locomotives in use were Duchess of Hamilton, City of Wells, Lord Nelson and Sir Nigel Gresley. Eastern region again promoted Scarborough Spar Expresses based on York, the most notable locomotive in use being the green livery day for 6009 Union of South Africa, which visited England from its Scottish base. Black 5, number 5305, in the SSE pool was named Alderman A.E. Draper in order to provide a more identifiable image for the non-enthusiast public. Two further Black 5s, numbers 44767 and 5407, together with the North British 060, Maud, made headlines in the railway press when they operated steam services over the Fort William to Mallaig section of the West Highland Line. So popular were these trips that extra trains were laid on throughout the summer season. A highly unusual event took place on the Strathspey Railway, when a certain lady, not known for her enthusiasm for railways, travelled on the line. Perhaps the Prime Minister would change her views for once. A number of unusual rail tours were run with BR diesels, the Devonshire Dart bringing Class 20s to the South Devon banks for the first time ever. These banks will echo to the sound of Great Western exhausts once again in 1985, as part of the Great Western 150 celebrations, when pairs of ex-Great Western locomotives were heard rail tours to Plymouth. Electric rail tours are a rather specialised interest and are few and far between, but a notable tour was run over Southern Metals by London Transport electric locomotive Sarah Siddons. The former Southern Region West of England main line from Salisbury to Exeter has seen little investment since 1966, when it was singled under the auspices of the Western Region. In June, an engineers train, double-headed by Class 50s, visited the line. Two new crossing loops are to be installed on the line at Tisbury and at Wimpole. These are intended to increase flexibility and to reduce the losses that can be attributed to the single line working. A notable exchange took place between the Great Western Society at Didcot and the Severn Valley Railway, when Leander and Dreslowen Castle ran on exchange rail tours between Didcot and Kidderminster. The Severn Valley had celebrated its extension to Kidderminster and a direct link with BR at the end of July, and Dreslowen Castle is seen here arriving at Kidderminster shortly after Leander had departed. Leander returned to Kidderminster on the 6th of October, and the castle returned that evening to Didcot.